Coming up on today's video, crucial updates from all 20 Premier League teams, my updated Game Week 6 wildcard team, who is expected to score well this weekend, and much, much more. Welcome to FPL Mate, my name is Dan, it's time to make those final decisions for Game Week 6. So let's go through all of the injury news first, because there's a lot of key topics we need to talk about, including the likes of Raya and Isak for this game week who have picked up injuries. Guys, if you do enjoy these videos, make sure you are dropping a like. Do subscribe if you're new around here as well, to make sure you get the key information ahead of every deadline. We drop this video every single Friday. So let's start off with the Newcastle versus Man City game. This is the first fixture in Game Week 6. And Isak, we know now he has got a broken toe. He had some injections last game week to kind of try and play through the pain, but unfortunately this week he has been unable to train and he is a serious doubt ahead of Game Week 6. So might be a player to prioritize selling this week if you do have him, maybe even for a -4. Gordon was mentioned as a possible striker replacement in that Newcastle lineup this week as well. And we do know that Botman, Lascelles, Miley and Wilson are all still out. On the other side of the fixture we have Man City, and Rodri has unfortunately been ruled out for the entire season with an ACL injury. So yeah, no more Rodri this season. Let's see how that impacts Man City, although to be fair, they did start the season without him and seem to do absolutely fine. Now, a lot of people are saying that Rico Lewis is the obvious replacement for Rodri, and we kind of got quotes from Pep Guardiola when he was asked about this, and he kind of said Gundogan, Stones, Akanji are all players who can play in that position instead. So I don't think this necessarily means that Lewis is now guaranteed to start in future games. Although I still think he should be reasonably good for minutes. I don't think it's a guarantee like maybe some people are saying due to those Pep comments. And De Bruyne could be out until late October. Pep, again, not super clear. He's definitely out for Game Week 6, but he could be back either side of the October international break. We're not really sure about that one, but certainly he is a player to sell. For Arsenal, this is the big one, isn't it? Raya is a doubt for Game Week 6. He is apparently going to have a late assessment following an injury that he supposedly picked up last game week. So unfortunately, we don't have super clear information here. A late assessment is never really what you want to hear when it comes to FPL. Arteta obviously owes us nothing as FPL managers, but he was being quite mysterious about this one, and you can kind of choose what you want to believe. But the quotes are there that he is doubtful for Game Week 6 and that he is a late assessment. That is the quote. If you believe that, that is up to you. If you don't, then fair enough. For me personally, would I be buying Raya right now? Probably not. I'd probably give it another game week to kind of see exactly what the situation is. But if you're on a wild card, maybe you can take that risk. But just do be aware that there is a risk there involved with Raya now. I know a lot of people will claim to have information. Hopefully we'll get something before the deadline. If you guys are joining me on the deadline stream, we will hopefully be able to give you an update on Raya tomorrow, but we've got nothing quite yet. Timber and hopefully White are available, having trained today, and Erdegaard, Marino and Zinchenko are all out. For Leicester, Vestergaard is reportedly injured, and Daka and Stolazic are still out with ankle injuries. For Brentford, Norgard will have a late assessment. He is not guaranteed to play, and this list of Brentford injuries, I didn't really realise just how big it is. De Silva, Henry, Hickey, Nunez, Jensen, Nunez, Thiago and Wissa all out still, which is a little bit concerning, but at least Mbermo is guaranteed some minutes for now, isn't he? For West Ham, Fulkrug is likely to be out, but he's going to have a late assessment ahead of the Brentford game, and Alvarez is suspended following a red card in the League Cup game against Liverpool. For Chelsea, Gusto and Lavia are back in action and available for Game Week 6. However, James is still out for with a hamstring injury. So Gusto, 4.9 million, might be an interesting punt if you do want to go in on the Chelsea defence. Their defensive numbers are actually pretty good. As for Brighton, João Pedro, bad news. He is out this game week following that injury he sustained in Game Week 5. We're not sure how long it's going to be for, but it could be for a couple of weeks. Gruder could be back in the squad this week, which is good news there. But O'Reilly, Milner and March are all still out. For Nottingham Forest, Bolly could be available again this week, which is pretty good. Gibbs White is suspended for Game Week 6 following that red card in Game Week 5. Danilo and Sangare are the long-term absentees for Forest. As for Fulham, Vinicius could be back this week, which would mean Fulham would once again have a full, clean bill of health. They're the only team that seem to be able to do this. They have just got crazy medical staff, crazy fitness levels. It is insane. Great news there from Fulham. Wolves is a really interesting one this week. Mosquera is likely to be out for the season following an injury sustained in Game Week 5. And Totti has trained, but apparently is not fully fit. But here's the big news. Apparently quite a few players have missed training today due to illness in the Wolverhampton Wanderers camp. And there's some doubts around who is going to be playing in defence for Wolves, because there just might not be enough players available. Might have to dip into the youth players to play against Liverpool, which is never what you want against a team as good as Liverpool in attack. As for Liverpool, Alisson has trained. He's expected to be available this week, so good news for those of you who do have Alisson in your team. Harvey Elliott, he is still out, but an interesting thing in the midweek, Salah, Luis Diaz, Trent and Robertson were all rested during that midweek League Cup game against West Ham, so hopefully they are all guaranteed starters for Game Week 6, which is good. Jota, he did play in that game, but having been rested in Game Week 5 and only played around 60-70 minutes in the midweek, I think Jota should be good for minutes this week as well, but we don't have any guarantee on that. Certainly not as confident, maybe, as we are with Salah, Luis Diaz, Trent and Robertson, which is excellent news. For Ipswich, Phillips could be back. He is back in training this week, so he could potentially get some minutes, build up his fitness once again for Ipswich. And Broadhead and Clark are also expected to be available. For Aston Villa, Digne is back in training. I know a few people have Digne in their team, a bit worried about him last week, but good news there for Digne owners. You probably want to start him against Ipswich. And as for McGinn, he is still out with a hamstring injury, and presumably Cash is too, judging by some of the comments we've seen this week. Mings and Kamara could be back reasonably soon after the international break. These guys have been out for seemingly forever, so Aston Villa are going to get a real boost with these guys back in their team. For Manchester United, Luke Shaw is expected back at some point during October, possibly after the international break as well. It seems like there's going to be quite a lot of players back after the international break in October. I'm dreading the international break personally. I don't want it. I want to play FPL some more. But anyway, Lindelof, Malacia and Yoro are still out as well. As for Spurs, not too much information here, but Son has not trained yet after a small knock that he did sustain in the midweek. He's going to have a late assessment. My understanding is that the injury concern is not super serious, but serious enough to maybe make us think a little bit about him in FPL terms. Certainly would not be looking to have him on a wild card, and if you do have maybe you want to get Saka in your team and you've got Son, maybe Son to Saka could be a reasonably obvious transfer move as well. Richarlison and Odobert are still out, however. And the final game of Game Week 6 is going to be Bournemouth versus Southampton, and Adams is still out, but everyone else is fit. Doing a bit of a Fulham here there, Bournemouth. Anyway, Southampton, we've got a few missing players here. Stevens is suspended until Game Week 7, so this is going to be the last game he is suspended. Presumably, Harwood Bellis is going to play this week, but after that, we could see Harwood Bellis play fewer minutes, so a little bit of a concern there if you do have him on your bench. Smallbone and Sulemana are still out, but they will be apparently returning soon, which is good for them. And Bazunu, of course, is still out for the long term. So just going through some fixture predictions, I think Man City and Arsenal should comfortably win their games this week. Brentford and Chelsea as the home teams also expect to do well. A draw in the Everton versus Crystal Palace game, I think that could be actually pretty close. Fulham, Liverpool, Villa, expecting these teams to win. Bournemouth should beat Southampton. Southampton's just been so poor this season, but Manchester United versus Spurs, I actually think could be a draw. I'm thinking like a 1-1 kind of draw, maybe 2-2 draw could be interesting too in this game. I think that one will be a little bit tight. Of course, if you disagree with my predictions there and you want to get involved in my Sleeper Pick'em League, please go ahead and join using the link in the description, because if you do, you can win some very big prizes. This is the final week to get involved in the September prize draw, and then next week we will be starting the October League. So yeah, do get involved, try it out this week, ready for the October League next month, because you really are going to be able to win some big prizes, which is absolutely fantastic. Thank you very much for Sleeper for sponsoring this video once again. So I know you guys probably want to see my final wildcard draft, but I think we need to go through just a couple of things first. And I don't usually show these in the videos, but I talk about these clean sheet odds quite a lot. And these are from RobTFPL on Twitter, just to quote the source there. And these are our spread market betting odds. So these are all kind of generated through the bookies, and we kind of see people who are paid a lot more than me to predict results of football games, what they are saying, what is the overall consensus on these games. And we can have a look at the clean sheet odds here, for example. I think this is really useful when trying to figure out who is going to be scoring goals, who is going to be keeping it tight at the back. And you can see, very obviously, Arsenal lead this table this week for Game Week 6. 55% of a chance of a clean sheet against Leicester. That's really, really good. So no doubt about it, an Arsenal defender in your team this week is going to give you a really good opportunity for some FPL points. But how about this? Liverpool at 38% are coming in second for their game against Wolves. And if there's even more players missing from Wolves than we expect, you could even see those odds get even higher. As we approach deadline, these odds will change just a little bit depending on any news that we do get. So right now, Liverpool 38% chance of a clean sheet. And then after that, we've got the likes of Bournemouth, Aston Villa and Man City, all with a 31% chance of a clean sheet for this game week. After that, kind of middling chances really. Fulham, Brentford, Crystal Palace, Everton, somewhere in the middle. But at the bottom, do not expect clean sheets from Leicester, Wolves, Newcastle, Southampton, Brighton, or even Spurs this week. Yeah, really, really low chance of a clean sheet for each of those teams. So hopefully that is going to help you kind of decide which defenders to buy this week, which defenders to play this week, which defenders to bench. For example, you've got Newcastle defenders, you've got Brighton defenders, bench these guys. But if you've got Arsenal, Liverpool, Bournemouth, Villa, even City, then you probably want to play them this week. I also have the Goalscorer odds here. Same source, same method of working out what the chances are really. And this is not a percentage chance. This is projected goals. And that takes into account the chance of a player scoring multiple goals in a game as well. And yeah, Haaland, 0.9 projected goals. That's really, really good. You pretty much can expect Haaland to score a goal in this game week. There's just as much chance of him scoring no goals as him scoring multiple goals, which is absolutely crazy, isn't it, really? Even against Newcastle, I think this is actually an easier fixture right now than maybe the FPL website is giving it credit. Listed as a red fixture, it's not going to be a red fixture for Haaland this week. You just know that for a fact. So, yeah, if you're looking for goals, Haaland is your guy. But interestingly, Salah in second, 0.73 projected goals. And I think, again, that could go up if there are some players missing from Wolves this week. So if you do have Salah in your team, it may be an okay idea to actually keep him. I know a lot of people do want to sell Salah, particularly for Saka, to upgrade other areas of their pitch. But if you're looking at taking a -4 in order to do that, it might actually not be worth it, because this is really good projected goal numbers here. And you've got to include like assists to that as well. If Salah also gets assists, that's going to be really, really nice. But Saka is coming in third here, 0.61 projected goals. No surprise there against Leicester at home. But this is probably the surprise one in this list. So in fourth place, we have Evan Nilsson. He is the Bournemouth striker that they signed from Portugal. It's from Porto over the summer. Yeah, obviously a very top quality striker in the Portuguese league, but he's playing Southampton at home. We know this is probably the best fixture a team can have right now. And the projected goals here, 0.57. Really, really nice there. So if you're looking for a cheap forward, Evan Nilsson, only around 6 million, I think 5.9 million. We'll talk about him a bit more shortly, but he looks really good. Cole Palmer, you expect to see here. Diogo Jota, I know people are selling him, but if he starts, and by the way, guys, I should clarify that all of these numbers are assuming a start. So if the player starts, this is what their projections would be. But Jota's on here. It's going to be even better if Wolves have injury issues. Wood and Burmo, Jackson, Havertz, Watkins, all with decent chances of goals here as well. And Calvert-Lewin, Son, Luis Diaz and Solanke a little bit lower. Probably surprised to see Luis Diaz a little bit lower on this table. But hey, I'm not here to tell you guys what to think. I'm just reporting the numbers that have been generated here. So, yeah, there you go. Let me know what you think. Do you think Luis Diaz has been given a disservice? Do you think Evan Nilsson is maybe being overrated here? And, yeah, Diogo Jota, what's your thinking there? I've sold Diogo Jota this week, and I'm starting to regret it a little bit. Maybe I should have kept him, but I guess we'll find out when the games kick off in Game Week 6. So now we've got all of that information, the injury news, the projections, we can start thinking about building a Game Week 6 wildcard draft. And this is probably going to be, I may do another draft in tomorrow's stream if there's any final changes I make tomorrow morning in the deadline stream. But right now, this is what I'm thinking. So, Sanchez in goal because of that Raya doubt. I think I'd just go for Sanchez for Chelsea instead. In defence, we'd obviously go for Gabriel. Trent Alexander-Arnold has got to be in there as well. And I've gone for Gvardiol here as well. He's down at 5.9 million now, so you can actually get him for a slightly better price than you could in previous game weeks. I think Man City, their projected clean sheets over the next several game weeks are actually really good as well. So we could see some good results there for Gvardiol. Into midfield, I've gone for Saka, of course, and Burmo, Semenyo, Luis Diaz, and Rodgers. Now, this 5-man midfield, I would really be sticking with. This is, I think, the most obvious template midfield possible. Use this as a starting point in your wildcard drafts, and if you feel like changing anything, go from there. Start with these 5, and then make adjustments as necessary for your own preferences. But yeah, this is for sure the template midfield. So obvious. 5-man midfield. Semenyo has some difficult fixtures coming up, but we have got a bench option there as well. Up front, we've got Erling Haaland and Dominic Solanke. Yes, I am still fanboying Solanke a little bit on wildcard drafts. He's just a player I would like to include right now. Nice long-term fixtures, or medium-term fixtures, great numbers, playing for Spurs. If Son is out, he's going to be on penalties as well. He might be on penalties regardless, to be fair. So all looking good there. And on the bench, maybe a little controversial. We've gone 4 million goalkeeper, of course, but then we've got Raul Jimenez. Now, I picked him because he was cheap enough to match the 100 million budget. Now, I have to say, a lot of you guys are going to have more budget than that, and I made this team primarily for those for those people with a lower budget as a starting point. If you do have a little bit more money than this, and most of you will, then Raul Jimenez can go up to a Calvert-Lewin or a Wood. That's probably where I would go. Jamie Vardy is another option there. He's 5.7 million. So even if you only have a little bit more money than 100 million, you're still going to be able to afford to go for Vardy instead of Raul Jimenez. But yeah, just wanted to throw that out there. Raul Jimenez is only in this team because I'm trying to make a really nice cheap team for you guys as a starting point. If I had low budget, then I would kind of feel forced to go for Raul in order to make sure my starting 11 was really nice and rotate him with the likes of Rodgers and Semenyo, depending on the game weeks. Now, Vandenberg and Greaves are my 4 million bench defenders. With a Gabriel, Trent, and Gvardiol defensive trio, you don't really need to spend money on your bench. You're just going to play Gabriel, Trent, and Gvardiol every single game week, so you don't need the money there, really. Vandenberg, did I say Van der Ven? I always say that. Vandenberg is definitely a player I would go for on a wild card. I know there are some doubts around his minutes, but I think it's worth the risk given his cheap price tag, and I think he offers more than a Southampton or an Ipswich or a Leicester defence, maybe. Greaves is also here as well. Nice and solid 4 million defender for Ipswich. Very reliable. That's much more of a reliable 4 million defender. So we kind of got the best of both worlds there on the bench. But yeah, really like this wildcard draft. Like I say, if I had a bit more money, Raul Jimenez would be the first player I would upgrade, but I'll leave that down to you guys. This is a really nice draft. Tinker with it as needed. But I think this will do really, really well in the coming game weeks. One maybe final note on this one. I've only gone for 2 Arsenal players, which may be a little bit controversial, but struggling to pick a third one. You could go for Havertz if you had the budget, but I think longer term, Solanke is probably nicer than Havertz. I would possibly consider going for Raya if I knew he was fit, but we don't, so he's not in this team. And outside of that, you know, I mean, who are you going to go for? Gvardiol and Alexander-Arnold probably going to outscore Saliba because Saliba doesn't really have that goal threat, or any goal threat really. And yeah, there's not really any other defenders or midfielders I'm super interested in. So yeah, double Arsenal. That's what I would do on a wildcard draft right now. Putting it out there, controversial as it might be. 96% team rating, by the way, on Fantasy Football Hub. And this is the final weekend. You can get the 50% off deal as well with your, well, with win your mini league or your money back. So if you think you are going to win your mini league, well, Fantasy Football Hub will help you. If you think you might not win it and you need a bit of help, well, if you don't win it, you get your money back anyway. So really obvious to just go ahead and use the tools on Fantasy Football Hub. There is a link, second link in the description for that. It's the last chance for that deal. So there's been so much talk about wildcards this week. I feel a bit sorry for those not on a wildcard, such as myself, because there hasn't been too much content for non-wildcarders. And if you have still got your wildcard and you're not using it in Game Week 6, let's have a look at some of the next opportunities. So the next big opportunities for me seem to be Game Week 7 and Game Week 12. Game Week 7 allows us an extra week of information about Raya, for example, who I think we would like to include on a wildcard team, but find it difficult at this moment. But you could bring him in Game Week 7 if you use the wildcard then instead. We also see in Game Week 7, a lot of the teams like Crystal Palace and Fulham have pretty poor fixtures immediately from Game Week 7. So it's a good opportunity to remove those players if you have a lot of them already, particularly if you're comfortable playing them this week. Also, it allows you to keep your Liverpool players for a little bit longer. Liverpool with Wolves this week is going to be pretty nice. So actually, I think you can keep them just fine for Game Week 6, and then you can maybe wildcard some of them out in Game Week 7. As for Game Week 12, this is another opportunity, and this is mostly about Arsenal and Liverpool. So although Arsenal have nice fixtures in 6 and 7, between 8 and 11, it's not really so hot, to be fair. So after Game Week 11, Arsenal's fixtures from there really do look very good for a long time. So I do like the idea of going for a triple up on Arsenal in Game Week 12. We'll have Raya information. We'll have a better amount of information about what kind of players we want to pick. Ødegaard could be back by then. So that could be the best time to triple up on Arsenal, or maybe triple up again on Arsenal if you do sell any between kind of 9 and 11, maybe 8 and 11. Depending on where you're going there. Liverpool also have good fixtures from 12. They face Southampton in 12. So, yeah, from there, that could be pretty nice. Do have Man City in 13, though, so do be aware of that. But after that, it's not looking so bad there either. And after that, there's just a couple of other teams that seem to have reasonably good fixtures. Wolves start to have good fixtures from 12. Well, actually slightly earlier than that, but Wolves are going to start to come into play, which is going to be nice. Maybe Cunha, maybe Aït-Nouri, possibly. And Aston Villa fixtures get good again after that because they face Spurs and Liverpool in 10 and 11. But then from 12, it looks a little bit better for Aston Villa once again. Maybe Newcastle players could come into play in Game Week 12 as well. But loads to think about. We've got a lot of time to think about it, to be fair. But to me, looking through the fixtures, Game Week 7 and Game Week 12 look like the next two big opportunities to wildcard when we look at these fixtures. Here are some differentials for you. Evan Nilsson, we spoke about him already. Southampton at home, potential penalty taker, striker against a really poor Southampton team. Think it could go pretty well, so I do like the look of that one. Martinelli, got to be spoken about as well. He is starting to come into a little bit of form, looking pretty good. Creative against Man City, and the next two games, as we know, are brilliant. So if you wanted to do something a little bit different with Arsenal, then maybe Martinelli could be the answer to that problem. And Malo Gusto, no Reece James, Gusto's back. We know how well Gusto did last season. And Chelsea seem to be improving as a defence as well. A lot of speak about Colwill at the moment for a Chelsea defender, maybe Sanchez in goal, but maybe Gusto could be the answer to your problems if you do want to go for a reasonably cheap Chelsea defender. All of these players, by the way, have dropped 0.1 million in value this season. So now is an opportunity to pick them up at a slightly cheaper price if you are looking to go a little bit different. So here are the top predicted points for your captain this week. Haaland. Yeah, it's Haaland again. You want to ask me who to captain this week? My answer is Erling Haaland. Although I don't want to discredit Salah here. If you still have Salah and you want to go against Haaland, you want to bet against Haaland, Salah is the way to do it. So it looks pretty good. 7.8 predicted points for Salah, 8.1 for Haaland. it's reasonably close there, I suppose. After that, Saka and Palmer, kind of the level below that, with 7.2 and 7.1 predicted points for this week, according to Fantasy Football Hub, which is, yeah, it's pretty decent, but why would you go there? If you have Haaland and or a Salah, and I hope most of you guys have at least one of those players by this point, I don't really see a reason to go against them. It's too early in the season to go crazy differentials. But hey, if you wanted to go for Saka or Palmer, you know, go for it. Don't let me persuade you otherwise. But for me, I'm going to be captaining Haaland this week. If I had Salah, I would maybe consider him as well, but I would not be personally looking at anyone else this week. And finally, the Game Week 6 Dream Team. Only 60 points for my Week 5 Dream Team, which is kind of pretty average, really. But this week, my predictions for the highest scoring players for Game Week 6, or highest scoring team within a 100 million budget, is going to be Sanchez in goal, Gabriel, Trent and Konate in defence. In midfield, Saka and Bournemouth, Semenyo and Luis Diaz. So similar to the Wildcard team, really. And then up front, Haaland, Havertz, the Differential, Evan Nilsson, and a bunch of super cheap players on the bench. So this team, I think, will score really, really well in Game Week 6. Guys, that is going to be pretty much it for today. Hopefully, this has been a super useful video for you. If it has, make sure you do drop a like. Do subscribe if you're new around here. Check out Sleeper and Fantasy Football Hub using the links in the description. And I will see you tomorrow for a deadline stream and watch another video. See you later, mates. Bye.